That's okay.
I'm Sydney. I'm a recent William & Mary grad. I double majored in history and economics, and now I work here at the Studio for Teaching and Learning Innovation as an assistant instructional designer.
I'm Sethu. I'm the training and instructional design manager at AidData, which is a research lab within the Global Research Institute here at William & Mary.
And I'm Nara, and I'm a visiting assistant research professor here at William & Mary, and I'm split between the economics department and AidData, which is a research lab here at the college.
So cool. Originally, I wanted to be a double bio and history major, and I was doing that for a while because I loved biology and I loved physics, but I hate chemistry. And Orgo is a weed out class, and it weeded out me. I was like, I can't do this anymore. But history stuck. So then I was just a history major. And then I started thinking a lot about the economy and just the way that people interact with money, and more so the way that money influences people's behavior. And so I was like, okay, let me take an econ class. And then I was like, wait, I'm kind of good at this. So then I switched it to a double history econ major. I met Nara when I took her really great class. What was the class called? Economics of Identity? Yeah.
That's right.
I took Economics of Identity with Nara, and then I met Sethu when I play tested their board game that they made based off of the class, and I think you guys could explain the game a lot better than I can. But it was really cool enough that I wanted to do a podcast about it.
So Capital and the Other as a game is in essence it's a learning board game. With that in mind, how do we improve engagement, but also how do we deepen understanding to the extent that people can internalize some of these economic theories more.
So, as you know, the class was very focused on identity, right? And trying to understand how different stratifications of the society engages with the economy in different ways, right? And we were trying to understand how the field of economics talks about it, and how do other disciplines also talk about identity and the relationship with the economy in general. And the first time I taught the class, which was one time before you took it, I kind of realized that not everybody in the class was able to fully comprehend what it means to be in a different identity. So if we were talking about low caste people and kind of the struggles that they face in their everyday lives, that can be really hard for a student in the US trying to fully understand what is it like walking in their shoes. And so when I met Sethu and we started talking about this, she was like, well, actually maybe we can do a game with this that puts the student into those shoes to try to understand what is it like to walk in these shoes, and what are some of the obstacles that would then come up for such a person navigating the world.
So when you were designing the game, I guess there's like a two-pronged approach where you're on one side trying to get people to, I guess, think more deeply and critically about the different identities that people have and the way that those intersect, and like using the game as a way to explore those. But then also that pedagogical aspect of like, how can we get people to learn from this? I guess learn in the sense of like, I guess gaining empathy, but also what are the like theoretical concepts being discussed here? So how did you go about balancing those two things of these are game mechanics and these are how I want players to play this game like in this moment, and how do I want them to, I guess, absorb the more technical information? Or did you say like, we only want them to be playing this game and we'll worry about the theory later? Or
the idea was that it would be supplementing what would be the introductory lecture. A space where you may have noticed, as someone who were actually part of the playtest, that the primary focus was to think out loud. To consider not only the identity, but also what it means for others as well within the game. And viewing it more as a thought experiment that could deepen what has been already introduced, but also sort of lather people up for what is to come within the course itself. So, and one of the ideas, the pedagogical ideas behind the game, was that this would be there would be multiple trigger points based on what is discussed, but based on their own experience within the game as well. So it supplements,
Right.
but it is also sort of a thought exercise in its own sense, as well, which can be used in other scenarios as well. Based on the feedback that we got, I was able to sort of analyze the possibilities for creating something standalone that people can access virtually.
Like for a public audience, or again, this like academic?
I would love it, this version that is the virtual version, to be free and open access. Anyone can access it if they have the tools to do so. So I am actually in the process of developing that as well.
That's so cool.
So the game has, as you can see, it has multiple pathways it could take, and each of them quite interesting. And I hope that they build up towards enhancing sort of not only the conversation, but the extent to which people feel that they, like I mentioned earlier, internalize what is the conversation is about, and then the dynamics as they play out in the real world.
I think gamification is a really interesting way of approaching that idea of getting people to internalize it, because I remember as I was playtesting it, it was kind of reminding me of sort of the feeling that you get when you watch like Black Mirror or Squid Games or other sort of like dystopian media where capitalism is being dealt with in a really dark way. Not to say that the game is dark, but in the way that like when you feel the stakes and you feel the pressure, and I think it's a combination of just like existing in a capitalist society of like you've grown up internalizing these ideas of like competition and wanting to, I guess, maximize your own benefits. And so when you're playing a board game, you kind of are like bringing that lived experience into it. And so it made me think of like I keep wanting to compare it to Squid Games again, but this idea of like
I don't hate that comparison.
I don't even
I like sci-fi, so I'm not gonna kill it. I'm not gonna kill that at all.
But this idea of just like money and survival being a game, or like a life and death game, and so to a much like lesser degree is kind of what I felt playing the game of just like I want to win. Like there are stakes here, and I think that even if people aren't automatically absorbing, I guess, the more like pedagogical theories at the time, they'll remember that feeling of wanting to win, and then feeling, and remember like if their character that they're playing as has like multiple identities that are, I guess, disadvantaging their progress, they're going to remember, I guess, the difficulty that they felt trying to win. Or so I guess I'm like in a really long-winded way like saying I think you're accomplishing your goal.
Always love to hear that.
I would say playing it impacted me in, like, I have a lot of theories about social study educations in general because I double majored in history and econ, so I'm thinking a lot about different ways that history and economics can be taught. And so experiencing this different way of it being taught gave me more ideas about things that I would like to do in the future with like social studies education, or even different ways of applying my own research, like just this idea of not taking the traditional approach, or like how many outside of the box ways can I approach trying to answer this problem, or and so I guess all that would impact me as a student as well, but I feel like it impacted me in a more well-rounded way because it was connected to things I was doing before and after.
Okay.
That's really cool.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Students will engage with it.
Right.
So it was really cool to see it come to life when you guys tested it out. And it's definitely part of my, just the way I like to teach, trying to teach the same things on various levels.
Right.
Because all students are going to learn so differently. And, you know, some people do very well with me explaining stuff and they can just take it in. People learn well from reading and they can just take it in.
Right.
Watching a video, they just take it in. Some people really need to get their hands dirty. And once they get their hands dirty, that's when things start clicking. And that was cool to see, right? It was cool to see that.
One of the moments that sort of come to mind is one of the playtesters saying, "Why am I focusing on financial capital?
I remember this.
There's so many other kinds of capital at play within the game. but I feel this sense of reverting back to the financial
Yeah.
capital is what this is really all about.
I think when you're thinking about game mechanics, well, at least when I'm thinking about game mechanics, I'm like, is there loopholes? Like,
Yeah.
can I win in a way that maybe I'm not supposed to,
Yeah.
but is still like technically following the guidelines?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thought process that I have, probably because of being brought up like in the United States, where everything's about money and winning and being the best. And so like, if a player were to do that in the game, would you see that as the game being broken, or as like, here's a added pedagogical level that I
Yeah.
didn't think was gonna come out?
I think because of the subject matter that the game covers, something I also noticed during the playtest itself, the various ways in which each player, as they engage with the other player, and as the player sort of explains their
Right.
delegated profile, how those interplay as well is a key element of it. So, are you cheating because you have very little financial capital? Even that forms part of what is the learning experience. So as players ask each other questions. So for example, I remember there was a player who was not doing very well, and then I think it was the last round as well, he played around and got quite a bit of financial capital near the end.
Yeah.
And how the rest of sort of the players responded to that was quite something to me.
Yeah.
It was quite reflective of that. Like, oh, okay. So you understood the stakes at play here for this individual.
I thought it was
or
really
this group.
cool, and I was also jealous that it wasn't me, like all the money.
It was great. Yeah, it was quite the climax.
Yeah.
But even the responses from the other players were quite sort of. They told quite the picture about what did you really feel. You really felt that this person, things were not going well. They're not going well, but now they did. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's all part of it, but it's difficult to cheat in a thought experiment because it's very difficult to cheat because what are you cheating?
Yeah.
It's not real money. It's not real. It is a conversation, though. Yeah, that's how I'd see it. Would you give them less marks? If they cheated?
No, I think it would actually encourage it. Because I do think there is some really, really interesting stuff that comes out of that, especially if we're trying to mimic as much as we can of real world interactions and different identities trying to navigate the world. You will always run into, at some point in your life, somebody who is trying to scam or somebody who's trying to steer you in a wrong direction. Something like this can happen always. And they might actually get the benefit from doing that, and you might be the one who loses out from it. So if somebody figures out how to do that in the game, like they figure out in real life, you know, the real world rules also doesn't necessarily want you to cheat, but people do it anyways.
Yeah.
So if the game is if students are able to mimic that in the game,
you
say why not? Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Something I really liked about your class was that I could tell you were putting a lot of effort into trying different things, or like trying different modes of engagement or different ways to explain material, like the variety. And even if some days weren't like the best in terms of execution, because that's just life, like sometimes people don't want to engage, but like the effort was there and the thought process, and I could see the planning, and I was like, you're trying, which made me want to try more. But I mean, I would have tried regardless, but still, I was like, I really appreciated that, and I could see the effort. And I think even students that aren't thinking about it that critically are still noticing, like, this is different than the class I just came through or the class that I'm going to next. I guess it was encouraging to see, like, a real-life example of things being different, especially, I think, going to a school like Women Mary that is so old. And a lot of the professors are really old, and the textbooks are really old. And it's just, like, a really entrenched feeling of traditionalism. And not to say that that's inherently bad, but that, I guess, the idea of seeing Nara taking different approaches to instruction and different methods of learning while being a student, and then seeing that idea made tangible through the game, I think was really inspiring for me in that someone who wants to do things differently or wants to engage with academia or research or old things in a new way, it gets really repetitive and you're used to things playing out a certain way. And so when something is different, it has, I think, a greater impact because you're seeing that distinction. And so I guess seeing like an actual professor with actual materials teaching it as something other than I'm going to stand in front of this board for 80 minutes was impactful as a student.
That makes sense.
I'm happy to hear that.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's some
Thank you
pretty
for
good
trying.
feedback. That's some pretty good feedback.
I'll take it.
Good game.
Good game.